we are back. I wanted to make a video on Sin once again, but this time more of a counterplay video to Sin. I know there's, like I've said before in previous videos, I know there's a lot of talk about this character. Some people think he's the best. Some people think he's top 3, whatever, right? You know, a lot of people out there think he's pretty insane, and he definitely is a lot stronger than he used to be before. But, so I thought maybe I would shine some light on some counterplay for the character in case anyone out there is struggling fighting him. Of course, this won't take you all the way to being the master versus the character, but maybe it could give you a different light on the character, or, you know, just help you in general fight the character. Again, I've kind of said my opinions on Sin in the past, and you know, in a previous video I've made. I still stand on, I don't think he's that crazy. He's strong, but I don't think he's like the GOAT or anything like that. But regardless, I know a lot of people do, and a lot of people are frustrated when they fight the character. So I thought, you know, like I said, I'll shine the light and, you know, talk about some things people could be doing better or some things maybe you didn't even know. To start, geez, where do I even start? Okay, let's talk about what Sin struggles with. So this video is going to be split into 3 different categories. Obviously, it's all going to be in this video, but there's going to be an offensive discussion, or I guess neutral discussion, kind of talking about what Sin struggles with, what, you know, gives him the most trouble. Talk about his offense a bit and ways to, you know, kind of get around it or help deal with it. And then we'll talk about actually making Sin block and his troubles on defense. Of course, you know, I want to start with neutral, so I guess we can start with that. Now, what does Sin struggle with in neutral? As you know, Sin's neutral in terms of button to button is actually, like, pretty, I'm not going to use the word mediocre, but it's not great. This feels pretty laggy to use. 23 frames recovery, I've said this before. In exchange for range, he has longer range. In exchange, he has slower buttons, so 11 frames and 13 frames. This also means his round start is pretty poor. I know that's not exactly a neutral, like, the part of the neutral topic, but just having slower buttons like this makes his round start pretty poor. So it's just, I guess that's something to add on. It's universally known that Sin just doesn't have the greatest round start, but I don't think he should for the reward he gets currently at the start of the game. So I'll just throw that in there now. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So, big buttons and long disjoints. What I mean by this is, whether you like it or not, Sin has some big blue boxes. If you look at his /, you can see it's just a big blue box. Obviously it's disjointed, but it doesn't really look like it compared to the other disjoints in this game. So, anything that is good at, you know, fast buttons for hitting him out of / due to it being 11 frames. Long buttons, this also means long buttons not just for keeping him out, but what I mean by this is one of his main tools of playing neutral, which I still don't think is that great, is Elk Hunt. This move, it goes pretty far, but, I mean, as you know, it loses to lows as it, you know, he travels along the ground. This move does have a low profile, but it starts on frame 10, which is not that great. Frame 10 is pretty late. It still has a low profile, so overall it's still good, and, you know, I would rather have the low profile than not have it. It obviously means something. But buttons that are able to hit him out of this are very strong. So, long buttons that are longer than his, and obviously more disjointed buttons. I hate using Ram in this example, but she's one. Like, Ram, yeah, Ram is just really good. Buttons that have around the same range as his buttons, but, you know, also give him trouble. Yeah, faster buttons, longer buttons. Faust, for example, he kind of just beats Sin in the neutral for the most part. You know, there's Testament. Their 2H is just kind of deletes what he wants to do due to the active frames. Nago. There's a whole bunch of characters. It's just hard to play around. Again, I can think of more. I want to keep this conversation. It's going to be a longer video, so I'm just going to keep it going. Moves that are, like I've said, that are built in to beat Elk Hunt. So, like, for example, Kai 5H, if you look at the hitbox, you know, it hits the Elk Hunt. He also struggles against low profiles due to his 2K and 2P feeling relatively stubby. This being 13 frames, which is just not great at catching the low profile 2Ks. A lot of times, if you see me fight Happy Chaos, a lot of times you actually have to do something like this in neutral to play around. He's just, it feels bad playing against a lot of buttons in this game as Sin, but as it should be due to his reward now being so high. And I think that's why he was not great last patch. He's a lot better now due to his, again, like I said, his reward being so high for being right. So yeah, characters that are good from approaching from the air vertically. So I mentioned this 6P is the bread and the wine in neutral a lot of the times, especially with 6Ps, other 6Ps having the same recovery as it, due to the 6P nerfs at the start of Season 4. For trying to make them more in line, like, for example, Zato 6P going from, like, 13 or 12 frames of recovery to, like, 20, right? So, you know, 6Ps being in the 20-plus frame recovery range makes this 6P really good in neutral. This is one of the best 6Ps in neutral. But, I mean, I've put the hitbox on the screen before. I'll probably put it on the screen now. Characters that are good at attacking vertically. So, again, I'm not saying like jump-ins, I'm speaking more above. So like a Bike in JH or, you know, Chip, J2K, or like a, you know, Milia, right? Characters like that, it's pretty hard to actually deal with a lot of the times. But yeah, that's very character specific. Next, I want to talk about, I guess this is kind of relating back to, you know, characters with, you know, good space control, like characters like Testament, characters like Johnny, Nago. I would still say Milia, Chip, you know, Happy Chaos, maybe even like Geo, Hot. The list goes. There's a lot of characters. Anji, Leo, like characters that just give him trouble in neutral. You know, obviously they're not all in the same category for beating him in neutral. Like some, like Nago, it feels like almost impossible to play that neutral, right? He is not great in neutral, like I've been saying, but his reward is so high that when Sin gets his touches, he is objectively a really strong character, right? It's just a matter of getting those touches, right? So characters that are just good at keeping him out from getting those touches or minimizing the amount of touches he's actually able to get is very strong. Those characters tend to do very well versus Sin. You know, I think to add on to this conversation that I believe this isn't exactly like a for sure counterplay, but you know, or you know, it's not exactly counterplay, but I believe in the mindset of fighting Sin, you have to be fine with getting hit. This kind of leads to, you know, him actually like hitting you. So two things. You have to be fine with getting hit, and you can't, the moment you get wall broken, you can't think, oh dang, this game is over, right? If he takes all of his stamina and let's say takes 30 or 40% of your health, you have to realize in the state that Sin is now in and how weak he is, you can't exactly just be like, oh, game done, I lose. Because he can't just do it again. He can't, you know, spend everything, break the wall, and then just do it again. It doesn't work like that, right? So you have to have some of a, if you are very Doomer versus Sin, then you will probably always lose. You cannot be Doomer versus this character. Like, for example, when I play the mirror, I want Sin to actually hit me a lot of the time. Or not hit me, but like, if he can make me block, I'm happy. If Sin is spending his, you know, his money, if he's spending the resources, the tension, the you know, the wild assault, it's good. Like, the pressure on his offense and lower stamina is bad. It's just objectively it's bad. So I'm fine with it. I think now going back to when he hits you, you have to know when to burst the character. You can't just get hit by a counter hit far slash and then burst. Like, this is the, if he has 3 or 2 stamina, you cannot just burst here. For example, you have to burst. You should like be bursting Sin by the time he gets around the deep, like doing the DP. If it's a stamina, if it's a combo where he has to spend everything, like, for example, you should be bursting around the time after the follow-up here, right? You want to be, either when he's 1 or no stamina, you want to burst the character. If you burst here, then you're back in the position of him having full stamina, and now you can't burst. So the hit through the wall is going to be guaranteed, right? You want to put him in a state where he's so weak that that burst is meaningful. Wasteful burst for Sin is probably the worst thing to do. You can't, even if you end up losing 30% and then you burst to compare to getting hit and then bursting and taking like no damage, trust me, you would wish you lost the HP to start. Just lose some of HP and burst him when he is using his stamina. That is probably one of the biggest things I will say this whole time. You cannot burst on first hit. You cannot. It is useless. If he has 1 bar of stamina, right? So let's say he has, like, you want to burst here, right? Like, in this situation. You don't want to burst on the 2K2D, Because then you're sending him back to neutral with 1 stamina, which still isn't great, but 1 is a lot better than none, right? So, yeah, those are just some things I had to bring up. Anyway, back to the neutral. I think that if your character does not have good options at dealing with Elk Hunt exactly, which I believe most characters do, to be fair, I think the move is pretty overrated in neutral. But if that's not enough for you, I think versus full stamina Sin, dash block is a pretty good option. And there's another reason why I think you should dash block. Okay, two things. So now compared to this patch, Sin catching your backdash with Elk Hunt with stamina is very good for Sin. So what I mean by this, so let's say Kai does. Right, I didn't even clean hit, and that was almost like 50, right? You cannot just, when he's full stamina, backdashing like an idiot is not great, right? Stop trying to be so scared of Elk Hunt and get out of the range of it by backdashing yourself. Because even if he doesn't Elk Hunt and he just uses the threat of it and you backdash yourself to the corner, Sin is very good at setting up spacing traps, and this is just not a situation you want to be in exactly. So that's why I recommend using low committal pokes that will beat the Elk Hunt, or just Sin's kit in general, like low profiles, is really good. Or just longer buttons to maybe force him back into the corner, or, you know, just kind of stuff the Elk Hunt before it reaches its low profile state is definitely for the best. Or just beat his buttons, throwing out big disjoints to beat his big blue boxes. Whatever, I just think that you kind of, when he's full stamina, you have to respect him a bit, right? I mentioned before in the other Sin video I made, like in full stamina, 3 bars, he's essentially like Super Saiyan God, right? Super Saiyan Blue. And then he obviously goes down lower in power level the less stamina he has. So you just have to kind of, playing versus Sin versus high stamina versus low stamina is a lot different in neutral, and you'll realize that the more you fight him. It's not as threatening due to lower stamina. Being able to confirm is, his confirms are, or I guess not even confirms, his ability to convert is a lot weaker than obviously if he had stamina, which it should be. Like, for example, there's no combo off this, right? Or if Sin does, you know, if he's right on defense and does this, wasted a bar and, you know, there's no combo. Like, I'm saying, okay, so for example, 1 bar, right? What do I get off that? There's literally nothing. That's not anything, right? That's why a lot of times when you see me play, like I mentioned before, you see me do this. Right? You know, this also, you know, so it's just like, but obviously if I have more stamina, you know, like this is picking up, right? So yeah, dash blocking. I think one mindset you have to have though when you dash block is you cannot be afraid of getting hit by Sin. Or, blocking Sin. And what I mean by this is, and I will say it again, his stamina comes back so slow. And it doesn't come back when you put the opponent in hit stun or block stun. So, a lot of the times, taking the throw is an actual option. Now, this might fall into the offensive category a bit. So, let me, this kind of is merging, like, I guess going from neutral to offense. But, you cannot be scared to block him at all. So, let me explain. The stamina takes so long to come back that situations like this, 2 bars, is so expensive, right? So, let's say I think that you're going to mash, right? So, I do close slash, right? So, close slash after the guard crush will beat your mash. So, here we go. Right? Now, I spent 2 bars of stamina, and I basically get no confirms anywhere, like, nowhere on the screen except the corner. The only time I get a combo in the corner here with 1 stamina is if I hit you with Elk Hunt. And I can do this, right? And then if I have meter, I can obviously go into super. But like this, there's no type of combo here, right? I'll even do like 2B. No combo, right? So that's why I'm saying that you can't be scared to block the character. And taking the throw, if that's the 2 stamina for, 2 stamina for a throw, if you're the opponent, like, you should be happy. Because by the time, if his offense starts becoming more committal, anyway, blocking this into this, it's just, it costs so much, and the situation he's in after it is just not great. Especially due to the stamina, you have to like kind of, it's so much RPS and then playing around your opponent respecting you, which realistically in a real match just doesn't happen too often. I think this good now, since we're talking about offense, I think mashing versus high stamina Sin is pretty dumb, but I think RPSing versus lower stamina Sin, due to his, again, like I said, his converts being worse, is, you know, a lot more optimal. Like I've showed, you know, you only get a combo off one stamina with by hitting Elk Hunt. There's no combo here, you know, there's no combo here, right? So choosing when to mash is definitely a lot better. This goes for example, I'll say that I'll touch back on this later, but 6K in the beat driver is gapless, but 6K delayed beat driver can counter hit your mash. But again, there's no combo to be done, right? If he, you know, counter hits you with the overhead, like I said, no combo, right? So if he even hits you with this in the mid screen, right? There's no combo here, right? And all of his moves, minus on hit, minus on hit, minus on hit, right? So one stamina Sin is just so much worse that taking the throw in situations like this, compared to getting nuked for your health bar from mashing and on high stamina, is just not the smartest, right? If I'm running pressure, you know, I do something like, let's say I have one stamina, right? This situation, I'm -8, right? Do this, I'm minus like double digits, right? Do this, -14. So again, I think defending Sin, you actually do have to pay attention to the stamina bar, seeing what it's at. You know, if I'm waiting for stamina to build up, right? You know, such kind of just blocking. Okay, there's different ways I guess you can approach it. Like, I'm saying that I think you should play more aggressive with the lower stamina Sin, but if you want to just hold, you know, and kind of just wait, that's fine too. A lot of what Sin is doing from situations like this is setting up spacing traps to try to read off what you're gonna do next and then punish that. But yeah, let's see. There's times, so IB is 2 hits, or sorry, 5H is 2 hits, and I believe that people need to get in the habit of learning to IB it. So Sin has a lot of gaps in his offense, right? What I mean by that, so if I set Kai to DP, so let's go. This is This is gapless. Beat driver right here. That's gapless. That's gapless. That's gapless, like I said, right? That's so minus, dude. Look at that. So those are all gapless. But if I go into this, DPable, 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 right? Even if I do like DPable, DPable, right? 2P 6H or 5P 6H is a 7-frame gap. 5H into the overhead or the low is a 3-frame gap. 2K 2D is, I don't know the exact gap, but it's DPable. Same with anything off 2D. Doesn't matter what it is. So that's why you'll see a lot of the better Sins do 2K 2D nothing to try to bait DP. This also means that off 5H, the only thing, if he has no stamina, you're -14, right? So you could literally always get like a 2K2B punish. Like, I know Slayer could do like /2H pile bunker and get a whole combo off you doing beat driver on block. So he has very bad enders, and I mentioned this is -8, and I mentioned that this is minus like double digits, right? So pretty bad enders without stamina. You always have to spend the bar, but again, it's just so expensive that a lot of times you don't want to spend it, right? So you're kind of relying on the other person not actually going to punish you. I think that those are just some things to know. 2H into 2H in the higher low is a 5-frame gap, and then like I mentioned, 5H into the other things is a 3-frame gap, like I mentioned. So what I mean by you want to be able to IB the 5H, so, because like I said, to beat DP, because like I said, 3-frame gap and 3-frame gap here, to beat the DP, like I said, there's 2K2D nothing, there's 5H nothing, since I believe it's -2, But since it's multiple hitting, this is a really easy IB timing. And so if you end up IBing it, you might have to only IB one. Oh, or I guess, wait, let me see if I get... Right, you can always get a throw here. So I'll set the bot to... Oh, I guess, okay, I have to do it, so... But usually in this range, of you just block the first one, and then if I were to set him Kai to IB only the second one, he would still be able to get this throw. So you would just get thrown, right, and then you could take your turn back. If they do this, you're even closer, so then you just get a 2K 2D or even a close slash. If they do this, there's no... I'm still minus on hit here. The only time I get reward is off Elk counter hit, but again, that's throwable, so you just throw it, right? So pretty much, unless he has meter, of course, where you can do this and then like RC, or then you would be yeah, then you just wouldn't be doing this. But so yeah, you want to IB the 5H and lower stamina. When he has high stamina though, it's useless because like I said, he now gets reward off this, right? So in higher stamina, you actually want to IBFD. So what I mean by this is if you IBFD, so okay, the situation, so for example, this right here, +6, right? So you're +6 here, it's alright. He's a little far, but there's a respect level to it. He is plus, so a lot of people just kind of sit it out. If you IBFD this, there you go. I was like, dude, why is it okay? So there's this. Look at this, dude. IBFD is definitely huge versus him. You don't have to IB the beat driver as well, but if you were just IBFDing the second hit of this, it just puts him so much farther where the +6 doesn't even really matter. I mean, same with this. A lot of good people I fight IBFD the second hit of this especially. The reason why, okay, so IBFDing this. There's also another option you could do, which is throw. But this one I don't really recommend too much. So let me show you a bit what I'm talking about. So Sin always moves himself forward before he actually does the move to the follow-up. And it makes him throwable if you delay it and try to frame trap it. And throw being 2 frames, it's basically, it's a pretty hard timing to actually get. So for example, that's a true, so this is just a true string, right? I do it instantly. If I delay it even a little, oh, you get thrown. So too much delay actually just gets you thrown in attempts to try to actually catch mash. If you don't believe me, you can go in the training room and see it yourself. It actually is pretty funny. For example, with the big driver follow-up, before he actually does the move, this right here is in a hitbox, this is in a hitbox, and then it turns into a hitbox. So he actually moves forward and before he actually turns into a hitbox. So this means that you can get thrown. Yep. Yeah. But again, I don't recommend this. I'm saying now, I do not recommend this because if you happen to get clipped, right, you can just, die for it. Especially since counter hit follow-ups don't really require you to need extra stamina. You can kind of just use the one. Let me see if I get the one frame timing on this. Right? And I can go into super there. If I do this, I can just go into super here. And obviously if I do this, oh. Oh my gosh, I suck. But okay, yeah, you get the point. So yeah, I don't advise it, but it is a thing. Anyways, back to the offense. So like I was saying, don't let him walk all over you when he has lower stamina, RPS more. He's more likely to try to throw you when he's lower in stamina, since he can't convert off a lot of things and he's trying to stall. So, situations like this, for example, like he'll do like, it's like throw, or like, he'll do something like this, which is, people don't know, but Wild Assault into 6K is a 3-frame gap, so it is throwable. So... oh, I mean, yeah, that's throwable as well. So yeah, 3-frame gap right there, which is throwable. I mentioned the other gaps before. Well, next thing I wanted to talk about is Sin's safe jump. So if Sin does the FD safe jump, the FDJS safe jump, those are always 6P'able. The only time he can make this real is off throw. So if you've ever gotten thrown by Sin, for example this, and then he does the FD safe jump, then he can always... That is real, it's not 6P'able, and it safe jumps 9 framers. If he does after a wall break, it loses to 9 framers. If he does after wall break, it's also 6P'able. And okay, so his other safe jump is the JH safe jump. This one is sometimes actually like crouchable, which is funny. So you kind of can duck under it at certain points. The other thing that's wrong with it is you can't make JH actually like 2+, and so even when it does hit, the problem with it is it's not plus at all really on block, to the point where it's, you know, if you have a DP, then you can just you can't actually just go into close slash straight off the safe jump, right? So you pretty much can always RPS with DP or, you know, fast mash, depending on what you have, but there's no more 3 framers in the game, so DP is probably just best. That one's also a fake safe jump, it loses to 9 framers. I believe at some points it also loses to 10 for the JH one, but I would have to double check. If you can't do the FD safe jump, then that's actually just a skill issue. Let's talk about his defense a bit. So, what I mean by his defense is there's a couple things. So, Sin is weak to spacing traps. He has pretty stubby buttons, right? These buttons are pretty... 2P is very stubby, right? 2K is pretty stubby as well. So he's pretty weak to spacing traps, and obviously the Elk Hunt out of the corner is very committal. If you're wrong, especially near the corner, probably going through the wall. So his defense is not... Okay, his defense is good and bad. Like I was saying, he's just pretty poor for spacing traps, long recovery on normals, slower buttons, right? Just, you know, kind of just is bad in this area. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. I think overall, just try to be strong versus Sin. Don't be scared. I know that his scare factor is 20 times higher than it was before, but you just have to be comfortable and not be scared and panic when blocking him, and realize what he's giving up to put you through certain situations. Don't end up giving up hope. And yeah, that's pretty much everything. I believe the only other Counterplay video I've done is the one with Unbiased. I may have said that earlier, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this one too. Curious to hear everyone's thoughts. I love hearing people's thoughts on Sin. It's pretty funny. But yeah, no, thank you everyone for watching. Until next time, thank you.